To me, yesterday was an awful day in the history of this committee. It set new low after new low after new low. And I'm not going to talk about all of the new lows. I'm going to talk about one in particular. And that is whether anybody noticed the irony that the day before the United States Department of Justice arraigned a former FBI director for allegedly making untruthful...
The senator just labeled yesterday a historic low, and then he points the finger straight at the top dog, the Attorney General. But here's what makes this absolute dynamite. He says the lie is verifiable, and the court record straight up nukes the FBI director's lame excuse. Watch how fast this whole thing unravels.
For allegedly making untruthful statements to this committee, the Attorney General of the United States sat right there and made untruthful statements to this committee. And they weren't maybe untruthful statements. This wasn't a question of nuance. She made allegations about the ranking member and me having received political contributions from some, she said, Epstein close confidant. Well, guess what? That's actually checkable. There's a thing called the Federal Election Commission. The Federal Election Commission keeps a website that tracks all of our contributions. An intern at the Department of Justice could have checked to see that the allegation, I'll leave it to myself, that I had received campaign contributions from this individual, that was false. And it's not a maybe answer, it's a yes or no. Did I or didn't I? And there's an unimpeachable record that shows that what she said sitting right there was not true. If we are going to care about untruthful statements made by the Department of Justice and the FBI in this committee, let's not have this be yet another area where there are different rules for one party than for the other party. And just by the way, on that very subject, the other thing that the Attorney General did sitting right there was to strip all cover away from the untruthful statements that had been made to this committee by the current FBI director. You all heard him here. He said that he couldn't tell us about his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case, where he first pled the Fifth, then got immunity, and then testified. He couldn't tell us what he testified to, he said, because the Department of Justice had sealed the testimony and because there was a court order barring him from doing that. And he actually identified which judge, the chief judge of the D.C. Federal District Court. Well, guess what? We know that since then, the chief judge of the Federal District Court has said that that was not true. He said specifically nothing prevented Director Patel from discussing his grand jury testimony. And yesterday, the Attorney General had the chance to say, you're right. We did seal the testimony in that matter. The Department of Justice did seal the testimony, and Patel's statement was true. Not about the court order, but at least it was sealed by the Department of Justice. She didn't say that. So now both his testimony that the DOJ had sealed his testimony and his testimony there was a court order barring his testimony are kind of demonstrably false statements to this committee. And then when he came back and we challenged him on those false statements, his second false statement was to say, I'm not going to answer any of those questions because my transcript of the grand jury testimony, I've worked with the DOJ to see that it is publicly released. Well, it either has been publicly released or it hasn't. It's a very simple distinction, yes or no. And we all know that it has not, in fact, been publicly released. And when we asked about that from the Attorney General, again, she left him high and dry and refused to say that anything had been publicly released, that there was any publicly released transcript. So yesterday stands in really stark contrast. I should say the day before yesterday stands in really stark contrast to yesterday. Yesterday, an FBI director was arraigned for making a false statement. The day before that, the Attorney General of the United States made arguably even falser statements. We'll see how the other case turns out. And she left the current FBI director completely exposed on his multiple false statements that his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case had been sealed by the department, was under court order not to be released, and had since been publicly released as a transcript. I don't know if this committee is going to take itself seriously enough to treat false statements to this committee as serious matters, irrespective of who made them.
Here's what just went down, and I'm gonna lay it out straight, no sugarcoating. The senators calling out the Attorney General for straight-up false claims in a hearing. But what turns this clip into a full-on nuke is how he frames it. Not as some gut feeling, not politics as usual, but cold, hard fact. You can check that line. Actually checkable. That's DC Code 4. You didn't slip up. You didn't even bother trying, because if it's truly verifiable, spouting it anyway ain't a mistake. It's a deliberate choice. And that dig about an intern? That's not just shade. That's the damn point. An intern. Not some hotshot investigator, not a special counsel, an intern with basic Wi-Fi. So when crap like that drops from the AG's chair in a Senate hearing, the question ain't did she misspeak, it's, what the hell is this? Real oversight, or just theater for the cameras? Then he drops the bombshell truth. Different rules based on your party. And boom! That's the whole scandal in one shot. 'Cause if lying to Congress is a felony for one team, and a yawn for the other, accountability's a joke. It ain't justice, it's straight up branding. Now, the FBI director angle. This is where excuses get buried. The claim, can't spill on my grand jury testimony 'cause it's sealed with a court order. Senator says the court later called BS on that. That hits hard. 'Cause I'm not allowed as the oldest dodge in the government playbook. It's the smokescreen that turns straight questions into endless fog. Once the fog rolls in, no answers, no fallout, everybody just packs up and calls it a day. And then the slickest trap in politics. We're working on releasing it publicly. Cool story, bro, but is it out or not? 'Cause we're working on it is code for grabbing transparency points without actually delivering a damn thing. That's why his closer lands like a gut punch. If false statements matter, they gotta matter no matter who spits 'em. Otherwise, it ain't a standard. It's a weapon you swing at enemies, and a shield for your buddies. And if that's the game, what you're watching ain't accountability, it's protection racket. So, sound off in the comments. Should Congress hammer consequences for lies across the board? Or are we just witnessing partisan get-out-of-jail-free cards in real time? And if you crave more breakdowns, where the spin gets stripped to raw English, smash subscribe. 'Cause the playbook's always the same.